This is the Last Minute Blues Podcast with Donny, Alex, Jeremy, and Jeff Burton.
It is the Last Minute Blues Podcast. Donny Fandango joined in studio by Alex Ferrario from 101 ESPN and Winnipeg's favorite son, Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic. Gentlemen, what the heck's going on?
I think I'm getting mail in Winnipeg.
Jerry, you look like you've had a lot of Tim Hortons over your time out in Winnipeg.
Hey, what's he saying there?
That was coffee. It was not donuts. It was coffee, not donuts.
I was so happy, though, when they did the outside pan of Winnipeg for Game 7, and they had said that it had been like 80 degrees that day, and I was like, good for JR.
It was crazy, and Tom Timmerman of the Post-Dispatch and I were walking during the day, and I saw a convertible with the top down. I'm like, are we in Winnipeg? Like, this is unbelievable.
Was in Winnipeg?
Yeah, and so I tweeted the picture of the convertible, and I said, never thought I'd see this. And somebody, I guess a Canadian in Winnipeg, responded like, what do Americans think we do up here?
That just feels like a strange place to have a convertible. That's all. It's not like I don't think Canadians as a whole can roll with the convertible. It just seems like that would be a little silly.
You ever see the movie 30 Days of Darkness where they're in Alaska and
I
vampires?
just spent it.
That's my assumption of Winnipeg. It's 30 Days of Darkness where the sun never comes out. It's just dark, gloomy, and rainy.
I just wanted to be petty today, too, by wearing this Minnesota North Stars t-shirt.
Pan down a little. Hold on, I'm going to try if we can do this with the
camera.
camera.
And it's not even a new shirt, so you can see.
Look at Donny.
But yeah, I've never in my life, into this exact moment, rooted for the Dallas Stars in anything. Ever. Like, ever. I don't
and you know who their coach is, too, right?
Oh, God, that sour-faced prick. I cannot. I don't like, you know what? I don't even like seeing him happy. Like, so this is just a lot of weird sort of emotions for me right now, but I just don't want to see Winnipeg win. I actually want to see the Stars and Mikko Rantanen. I mean, I hope they kick their friggin' ass in 4. It would make me hoot and holler. As a matter of fact, I need that in my life right now.
You know what I need? I need a power ranking, a top 5 list of Donnie's most hated head coaches in the NHL. Is DeBoer or Arneal 1 or 2?
DeBoer is 1 by a mile.
Okay, nobody's close to it.
Because I have
He's
just
rooting for the coach that
I know.
despises over the
But he hates the
100%. Because I love seeing, and I've said this a ton, I love seeing DeBoer and that mug. Like, I think I just saw him smile for the first time, like in the last round, and I hope I never see it again. Well, I guess I do in this round. But like, I just seeing him all puckered up and pissy is just something that gives me a little life. And I know that's probably terrible, but whatever, it is what it is.
That's the one thing I've learned about Donnie in the couple years, doing this is you did this to my team. Guess what? I hate you.
You are on my hate list now.
But he's got to be number 1. But also, too, it's kind of weird with NHL coaches, the way that the cycle works now.
Because you hate
they
them
don't
1 minute?
they don't stick around long enough for you to really dig your teeth into them.
Pete DeBoer will be on the Blues coaching staff in a couple years. Donnie loves him.
An assistant coach, and Donnie's all aboard the Pete DeBoer train.
It would have to be really weird to, like, actually meet somebody like that. I would feel bad for sure, because he's probably a lovely person, probably a nice guy, and I'd meet him and go, that Pete guy, he's all right. We can have some fries, but
some fries.
Man, that's kind of like
it's poutine in JR's world.
There we go.
Yeah, poutine in JR's world.
All right, so gentlemen, yesterday, big day there at the Enterprise Center, the exit interviews and all of those sorts of things, the post season press conferences for the coach, bunch of players, as well as GM Doug Armstrong. You guys were both there. I watched the GM. I watched Doug Armstrong's presser, and so I feel like there's a good amount of things here in which to talk about. But I think that the general overall consensus for Blues fans everywhere, even the ones that are still really, really sore about Sunday, is I think that we're all really optimistic about the future of this team, and they've given us many, many reasons to.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into Army. I mean, the biggest thing that I took away hearing from Montgomery talk, because he was the one that spoke before Doug Armstrong, to me, it's a pretty positive feeling that you're having an exit interview, and the main topic from the head coach is we've got to be better at 6-on-5 or 5-on-6. Like that was the consensus of what Jim Montgomery's 20 minutes was, talking about how they struggled at 5-on-6 and it bit them at the end of the season. But it's not like we were talking about top players not perform. It's not like we were talking about being bad defensively, or I think he mentioned their struggles on the road. And I asked, like, how do you flip that? And he's like, look, you figure it out. You get battle tested. The fact that 5v6 was the biggest problem from the coach's perspective, I mean, that's a good spot to be in considering what the last 2 off seasons have been for us, JR. Hearing Jim Montgomery or Drew Bannister or Craig Berube talk about it, it's like, we got to figure this side out. We got to be better defensively. I think last year Falk talked about how they needed to have thicker skin and be harder on pucks. Now you're only talking about being better when your goaltender's pulled.
Yeah, and I think I'll tie that into my answer. Big picture, if you listen to, an hour and a half yesterday of talking to guys, if you listen to whether it be Doug Armstrong, Jim Montgomery, or any of the, 7, 8, 9 players, any question that was asked in a positive manner in terms of, it was a good season, anything that related to that was met with, but.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest takeaway to me. So if you talk to Doug Armstrong about, you guys have taken a step in the right direction, he was like, but if in December we're talking about 6-on-5, then I'm going to get the old quote machine out, and we're going to say that we need to stick him in. And then so you talk to Braden Shen, and you say, hey, the culture's changed. The culture's a lot better. And he says, but that doesn't carry over year to year. We need to do that again next year. So I think if you're a Blues fan and you were still stewing about that loss the other day, and you were tired of hearing the people talk about what a great season it was.
That was me, sorry.
No, I was there too. But I think that you should have respected the answers that all the parties provided yesterday.
All right, so this is a question that I asked a couple of months ago while the Blues were on the run. And, we'll talk more about the press conferences, and this plays into that. But, what we saw that last 2 months, that incredible run that after the Four Nations that led them to the playoffs, how do you guys look at the year as a whole and take into account what you saw before that Four Nations tournament and run? Like, how do you look at it all as a whole? Don't get too drunk with the last couple of months of the year and the fact that they did have it did not end the way that we wanted to, but they took the President's Cup team or President's Trophy team to the 7th game of the first round. I feel like there was a lot of positive there. How do you go into the offseason knowing that those positives were there and that they're very strong, but also, you don't want to get too high on yourself? How do you sort of kind of look at that? Do you understand what I'm trying to get at here?
And I think that's my biggest question mark still, like for how positive I've been and how we were on Monday's pod, Donnie, of like, look, yes, they lost in like the most heartbreaking fashion, but they still lost. My question mark is still, what do you look like at the beginning of the season? Because we can get excited about Jim Montgomery, and we can get excited about the players that showed up, the Snuggeroods, the Bolduc, the Neighbors, but at the end of the day, the last 3 seasons have been slow out of the starting gate, and then you've had to go on a miraculous run at the end of the season to put yourself in a playoff position. And that's the Doug Armstrong quote. If I'm still talking about issues in December that we were talking about this year, then it's time to break out the old quote machine again. That, to me, like, I look at what they did at Four Nations, and to me personally, I look at it and they say, you've established a culture, you've figured out a way that needs to be played, and now everybody on that roster understands what it takes to make the playoffs. The buy-in should be there the moment they start the training camp next year. But I said that same thing following the half of a year with Drew Bannister of nearly making the playoffs and missing and dealing with that heartbreak and saying, well, you should have come out of the gate ready to go, and they stubbed their toe early on in October and November. So if we're still having those questions and they're struggling to come out of the gate, then there's still underlying problems. That's my biggest question mark still from looking at this season as a whole. February to the end of the season was great, but I do still remember October to January, and that can't continue to happen.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is this. They have put things in motion. So regardless of what you want to think about the roster and some things that they need to do differently with it, they have put things in motion in terms of they know this guy, Jim Montgomery, can run the show. They know that what he does moving forward is going to be successful with this team. As Alex touched on, they've recreated the culture. So, yeah, Braden Shen's right. You have to do it again at the start of next season. But it's a lot better than what the situation was in January or February. And I'll say this is probably going to be the last time we should probably say something like this. But if you would have said prior to Four Nations that here's what I'm going to guarantee you. I'm going to guarantee you that the Blues are going to make the playoffs. They're going to play in the first round against Winnipeg. They might go past the first round, but I'm going to guarantee you that they're at least going to go to Game 7. And I'm going to tell you that Snuggerud's going to come in and look good. I'm going to tell you, X, Y, Z, so many different things. Anybody would have taken that. And so, yes, there's going to be disappointment over what happened, but what transpired the past 2 or 3 months has put things in place for this team to jump off it starting next year. And also it puts guys in a weird way. The way it ended is going to put guys in a sour mood and they go into their workouts knowing, hey, we were that close. And so this is almost the perfect ingredients for the situation for the Blues to come back next year and kind of take off. Now, I do want to say this. I really, truly believe that in a year or 2, 3 years, when this team is ready to really be, let's say, a top 5, top 6 team in the league, the faces are going to look different. And that's why I'm so focused on the fact that they've put things in motion as opposed to, hey, this group of guys is ready to become that team, because this isn't the group of guys. There's going to be, like, you're going to tell me Oscar Sundqvist is going to be on this team in 2 years when this team takes, you're going to tell me Justin Falk's going to be, there's I could count 10 guys that aren't going to be on this team in 2 or 3 years when they take that level. But they have created a situation where the organization can now jump off.
And that's real quick, Donny. That's the part that I find so fascinating, because it's something we've talked a lot about on the podcast. Is the retool over? Because hearing Doug Armstrong talk yesterday,
it's over.
They're at least in their minds, they're no longer in a whatever, as he calls it. I think everybody's going to have differing opinions with this one, but, I mean, just take him for his word. They said they improved 5% from last year to this year, 92 to 96 points. And if they expect to be 5% better this coming year, well, then you're expecting to be a 100-point team. And if you're expecting to be a 100-point team, then you're at least considered a team that should compete for a Stanley Cup. So, like, at least hearing from them, and I'm just taking him for his word. Now, there could be maybe overplaying it so that when it's underselling, I don't know. But if that's the mindset, you're no longer in a whatever. Like, there's still development that takes place, and I think that's your point on this, JR. But for me, like, Dvorsky's not guaranteed a spot, it sounds like, next year. There's going to be internal competition if you want to be. He made it pretty clear with Zach Bolduc, like, hey, man, those mistakes you made this year, you don't get to do that next year. So if they end the season without the playoffs, there's no, well, you know what, they're still developing guys. It sounds like it's, no, if you miss the playoffs, that's a failure, just like it was when they won in 2011, 2012, and then they went on that run where they were in the playoffs every single year.
Okay, so, you guys have me on here to represent said fan.
Yes, please.
As a fan, in which
You're
that I
on
am.
here for more.
Hold on, should I pan down again for the Minnesota North Star shirt?
Guys, if they don't make the playoffs, I mean, my expectations now are not Stanley Cup next year necessarily, but bros, I'm seeing the steps. I just want to keep seeing the steps.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like as long as I'm seeing that growth and that improvement, that's great. But I don't want to call it a retool or a rebuild anymore, because to me, the goal, the mindset is different here now than it was, a couple of months ago.
Well, that's why I'm saying everything is set in place. Let's hypothetically say the Blues don't make the playoffs next year. Is that a massive setback to, what they're trying to build here? No, but it could be a situation where maybe
Somebody gets hurt,
Braden Shen regresses, or there's an injury, Justin Falk isn't up to snuff, and, Nick Leddy's still on the roster because they couldn't move him, and maybe he's not up to par. There are so many situations with this team and this roster that, I'm still not ready to say that they've, got who they want.
Yes.
But they've put themselves in a position where they can go up. But they could very well miss the playoffs next year. And Braden Shen said that yesterday.
It's not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee, is what he said. And if they don't, Donnie, I don't think it's going to be disappointing. But they're still big picture building something that can be successful.
I think the disappointing part comes in if you're not around the same competitive team that you were this year.
Exactly.
Yep.
Like, you can miss the playoffs with 98 points, and it's because everybody else in the Western Conference was awesome, and they will be. Minnesota, Bill Guerin said yesterday, with now that they've got the handcuffs off with those salary cap,
they're going to spend.
He said, I'm not sitting on my hands. Utah, which we get into this later, how the hell do they win a draft lottery to move to the 4th overall pick? But, like, Nashville, I don't expect to be as bad next year. It is the toughest conference and division in the National Hockey League, so it's going to be tough. But if you're an 89-point team next year, if you go on a 12-game losing streak, which I don't expect to happen, but if you start off sub 500 in the first 3 months of the year, that to me is where the disappointment set in. If you finish 98 points, better than what you were last year, competitive all year long, I can't be upset that you missed the playoffs.
Yeah, and here's where what changes for me with where the Blues are at right now, and Doug Armstrong said it yesterday, is that now I think they feel a right that they can be more aggressive. And he said it, hey, let's go out and get a 200-foot offensive forward, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say that the Blues didn't climb out of the hole. They didn't make the playoffs this year. You know, Doug is still probably feeling pretty good about things with all the prospects that are coming in. But you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, this is going to take some time. We didn't make it again this year. You know, the team doesn't look like they're together, same page, culture, all that stuff. But instead, what happened was they did pull together. They did make the playoffs. So even though they still might be a couple years off, Doug said, hey, let's go out and get X player. And I think that what transpired the past couple months is going to allow them to be more aggressive.
All right, so if I am reading this particular room correctly, and I believe that I probably am in this regard.
You can read me like a book, Donnie.
I mean, that's good, I guess. See, we're homies. That's good.
We're buddies.
But, guys, if I'm kind of like reading between the lines and reading what you're saying, JR, if you are looking into the crystal ball for next year, the number one thing in which that I'm guessing that you are both concerned on, wondering about, is how the defense particularly shakes out, specifically with Leddy and Folk. Would that be correct or no, or what do you think?
Man, my answer to that originally would have been yes, until I heard Doug Armstrong say yesterday that, you know, like if they're looking at it, a 200-foot offensive weapon is what they're going to be looking at this offseason. Now, again, he could be saying, look over here, and the next thing you know, go make a trade for a defenseman. But I actually think your defense was pretty damn good this past year, and at least in Doug Armstrong's mindset, they asked him about the top four, and he said, yeah, we're good there for now. Now, I don't know what for now means.
I did see the for now on there.
Yeah, like the for, it was, we're good, comma, for now. And it's like, what? Exclamation point, I felt. But you've got Tyler Tucker, who learned last year. You got Kessel, who was up here the entire time. This Lindstein that they're pretty high on. You don't know what's going to happen there. But your top four was pretty good.
Okay, then maybe let me be more specific.
Yeah.
Letty and Folk.
He actually said that.
He said that, and I glossed over
you
it.
glossed, so now
cool.
he's
now,
going back.
But I mean, like,
way to go.
He's not a fan. That's a reporter. A reporter does it.
You're a poser.
And I'm not even trying. And I want to preface this. I am not trying to single those dudes out because I am not able to watch the game in a way that you guys are, in which that you are able to pick out when these guys are having good games, bad games. Yeah. So I rely on kind of what I hear and what I read, and it seems as though that those guys have had some moments this year where they are maybe not playing the way that the Blues need them to. You know, there were definitely some plays even in the playoffs, like with Falk, where like Duder didn't look particularly like locked in on some plays. Yeah. So more than anything else, I am just asking about those guys because they seem to be, you know, brought up a lot.
Yeah, well, and I think both will be brought up no matter what. Like, that's just going to take place. To be specific with those two, because Donnie's not going to let me gloss over this again.
You better answer about those
I
two.
thought Falk was actually good in the playoffs, but I don't think that matters to a lot of Blues fans. But your top four in itself, if you've got Fowler, Parayko, and Broberg, you can have a Justin Falk in your top four. Plus, he runs your power play. The Leddy one, for me, I'm actually not as upset about it. This is the final year. It's $4 million. To me, I think he's a perfect third-pair defenseman. And prior to Tucker getting injured, Tucker and Leddy were a very sound pair for you. So, to me, the problem isn't your defense. Would you like to upgrade? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But you've got to do a lot of bobbing and weaving to upgrade on defense. Forward is the part that it was very evident that if one piece was missing, that team fell apart. You didn't have Dylan Holloway. We were talking about this team not having even strength. You lost Shen, you lost Kyrou. At times in the playoffs, Pavel Buchnevich wasn't as consistent. Snuggerud looked good, but you don't know if he's that finisher yet. Him saying that they're looking for a 200-foot offensive weapon, I think they're saying they need a finisher in their top six that can carry the load when other guys aren't able to.
Yeah, you're right. Here's my only problem with the D is you can look at the group, what it did this past year, and say, yeah, they got the job done. Like, they played pretty well, right? And people can focus on Falk and Letty, so on and so forth. Okay, they did it this year. Guess what? Next year, they're all a year older.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that you have to be a little bit weary of, because now you're talking about guys that are not 32, 33. You're talking about guys that are 34, 35, a couple of them. And this is a young, quick league, and you lose a step.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely do. And so can the same group of aging veterans who got the job done this year do it next year? Maybe they can. I don't know. To me, that's why I keep looking at this Blues defensive situation as they are just riding out the last couple of years of these contracts until they can get to a point where they can revamp it. You talked about handcuffs a second ago with Minnesota. There's handcuffs on what they can do with this Blues defense, because there's likely not people who are going to take a 33, 34-year-old defenseman, 6.5 with another year or two on the contract. So, again, I swear I'm not going back to the retool conversation, but that's what I'm saying about
Make him answer the question, Donny.
That's what I'm saying about the next couple of years, is they are writing some things out. They are still retooling the
But this is helpful, though. It's helpful because, again, man, my eyeballs do not get into the minutia of when a lot of times that they are making mistakes that I don't see.
Yeah.
So hearing you guys kind of say this, it makes sense to me and kind of makes me feel a little bit better. Now, I want to ask this particular question in talking about this glorious 200-foot player.
Yeah.
Mitch Marner.
Yeah, I was going to say, everyone was thinking the same thing when he said offensive 200-foot weapon. I'm like, cool, so you said Mitch Marner without saying Mitch Marner.
Is this a situation where this guy, this angel, is signed out of free agency, or is this a trade situation? And if this is a trade situation, does that mean that, then it wouldn't make any sense for me to say what I'm about to say. I was going to say that is Jordan Kyrou part of that trade bait, but why the hell would you trade a guy that just scored 36 goals for a guy?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'll again go off of Doug Armstrong's words. On top of him saying, being aggressive and offensive 200-foot weapon, he also reiterated, but we're not in the business of trading first-round picks or top prospects. So in that sense, okay, well, you're not trading your Stenbergs and Lindsteins and first-round picks for offensive weapons, but you're also not willing to move off of, because he was pretty glowing about Jordan Kyrou, of feeling like that was one of the answers for him. So you read between the lines, sounds like a free agent signing, but that's not typically the way they go, because Doug's told us before on our show that, when you're in the free agent market, you're already starting at number 11 on that list, because teams want to go to the original 6 teams, and they want to go to no tax places, they want to go to ideal living scenarios. So you're already starting at number 11 on that list, and then you have to throw the money out there. So I really don't know. I mean, he was pretty adamant about hockey trades were all they were looking at the trade deadline this past year. So a hockey trade would make sense if you're looking for that offensive 200-foot weapon. But aren't you downgrading then if you trade something off of your roster to go get that piece? That's the part that's wild to me.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is, and he said it yesterday, you can't count on free agents being available.
Yeah.
So, you might have to go hockey trade, which I agree with what you're saying, that, hey, how do you make this work if you're giving up a Kyrou, or like Alex said, you're giving up first-round picks and you're kind of hurting yourself. So it makes it sound like, free agency is probably the better way to go. But, I mean, look at I'm just totally, Marner, Sam Bennett, guys that would make this team infinitely better. They might re-sign with their teams. Like Doug said it yesterday. He goes, hey, we're sitting there with Tom Stillman's money right there on the hood of the car, ready to give it to the guy. And then all of a sudden he signs with his current team 2 days before free agency. So it's tough. But I do think that they're acknowledging that they want to make those improvements if those guys are available.
Well, and real quick, Donny, because I recall a conversation that I had with Backus a few months ago, and we were talking about that 2008-2009 team, to where you made the playoffs, but you got bounced in the first round, but you felt like your window was opening. And David said that, as we got better, you start to look at it, because fans' response is, if you're not good, you need to be bad and just get a top 5 pick. But in David's mindset, he was like, we always thought that's like, hey, if we're starting to build something and you've got a core in place, then that's the time to mortgage some of those future assets that aren't going to be a benefit to you. And that's the question I guess I have right now where the Blues are at. You obviously want to keep your pipeline strong. You want to keep drafting and developing players, because that's how you remain consistent. But when you have a ton of dudes who are 25, 24, 23 years old and you feel like they're ready to be competitive, At what point do you look at your roster and say, now it might be time to maybe mortgage some of those future pieces that we don't feel like are going to? Because what's a 19th overall pick do for a team that's not going to help you in 4 to 5 years when you're hoping to be in a winning window in 4 to 5 years? That's the question I guess you'd ask.
How does Dvorsky make the team next year?
That's a loaded question.
And I think one of the things that we need to preface this by saying, and Armstrong said it in the presser yesterday, if he starts next year, plays next year in the AHL, that's part of the process. We can't. The kid's still 19, right? 20. I mean, he's still a very young guy. But what does he have to do? Because it's so unbelievable to me to see what Jimmy. I mean, I know they're different players. Snuggerud's a little older. But he came in and after like 12 seconds looked like he belonged. So it's just sort of remarkable to me, the tale of the two sort of first rounders. So how do you see this Dvorsky thing kind of breaking down?
Yeah, he's a little bit, just a year older, but also he's played in North America his whole life. Snuggerud as opposed to Dvorsky, been on the bigger ice.
In competitive hockey too, in college versus juniors.
Yeah, and different position too. Snuggerud breaking in on the wing. He's got, Robert Thomas to kind of help him out. If you're playing Dvorsky, you're probably looking at, center is where his future's going to be. Could he have a great summer and come in and make the team out of camp? Yeah. Would I bet that he'd come in and win the number 2 center job? Probably not. And as a side note, this is what, is so interesting about draft picks, because if you had a Celebrini, top overall pick, those top 1, 2, or 3 guys are guys that you just put in there and they just take off and they're on the highlight reel, every other night. It's incredible. But Dvorsky, we're talking about a number 10 overall pick. I mean, so he's only 7, 8, 9 spots back from those top guys, and he's still a process guy. He's a guy that's going to take some time. So I think what they did with him this year was great, getting the seasoning in. Springfield had a great year, and then now he's playing in the World Championship. So I think he'll get there, but it's just a little too much when you're Doug Armstrong and you're thinking going into July 1st, hockey trades, free agency, hey, should we hold a spot for Dvorsky, number 2 center? I don't think they can. I think Doug made that clear yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, he did. To me, I heard it as Dvorsky does not have a spot ready for him. It's you have to earn it, which means you have to outplay a Sundqvist, a Shen, a Foxa if he's re-signed, a Joseph, a Texie, all of those guys. This is going to be an odd question, but because all of the games have run together. Do you guys remember Bolduc's training camp in preseason?
Yeah.
Was it effective? This year. Was it to the point where it was like, oh, dude, this guy's on the team?
I think that 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
It was not good.
Yeah.
It was like...
Because that was the year he started in Springfield, played 50 games, and didn't get called up until the end of the season.
Yeah, that was like a training camp that was like, holy, this isn't good.
Yeah.
But then he put in the time in the American League. So this year, I think he was so-so, if I recall.
Because and maybe this is answering our question. I just don't remember him sticking out to where it was like, he is on this team no matter what.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was a situation, though, it's like, okay, we need to give him a shot. He's got to be up here getting NHL practices and getting some games, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, well, and so the reason I asked that is because to make the comparison, Bolduc last year was 20 years old. And that year was when he started in the Thunderbirds, played 50 games for him, wasn't effective, but he was learning the game, and he was good when he was healthy. And then he was called up at the end of the season, got a taste of the NHL. But it's different from Dvorsky's because Dvorsky played 2 games, and they were like, nope, he's not ready for this. Let's send him back down. They put Bolduc in, and he played 25 games, and they were like, oh, okay, he's starting to grow. So I kind of think Dvorsky's upcoming year was Bolduc's last year. Okay. Meaning, I think you're going to see him in the AHL start off, unless he just dominates in training camp, and then you get towards the end of the season and sprinkle him in, and then the following year is when they'll see kind of like Bolduc this year, where it's like, hey, he's got to get reps. Because if they're going to be aggressive in the offseason, if that's the way they decide to go, man, I don't know where the spot's going to be for Dvorsky. Yeah. Because I'm assuming they're going to bring back Radek Foxa. You're set with the exception of that third-line center, but if they're going to be aggressive, you wonder if that's the position they go. Mm-hmm. Dvorsky's just an extra piece that gets times if injuries pop up.
It's so crazy to me how over the course of the last few days, one of the things that sticks out in my mind the most is how seemingly everyone in this city, including management, wants to re-sign Radek Foxa.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on board. It's so incredible that the Blues have that fourth line to be what it is, to play as much as they do, and the matchups in which that they do, they got to bring that guy back. Oh, yeah. I mean, they got to.
You haven't had an identity line since Steen, Barbashev, and Sundqvist. And they tried. They tried with Toropchenko and Dakota Joshua.
gonna say.
They tried with Josh Levo. They tried with Kasperi Kapanen. They have
like 6 times.
Yeah, they've gone through the Klim Kostin was there for a little bit, like Klim Shady, our boy Jeff. Look, they've been through the ringer. It's been a revolving door of fourth liners. And for the first time since the Stanley Cup, I feel like you have a line that you throw out there and you know what they're going to provide you. So in my opinion, I know people's opinion is, well, just put Sundqvist there. He'll be fine. He plays like Faksa. No, man, that's different chemistry. I think if you've got a guy that works, you bring that guy back. And it's not like we're talking $4 million for Radek Faksa.
I was going to ask, what does this contract look like, you think?
Well, he's coming off, what is it, a 4-year deal, like the 5-year deal with
4,
Dallas,
I think it was.
and it's 3.2-ish. So I think that, I don't know, is he going to go try to make more money elsewhere? Like, is he going to try to make 3.5 somewhere? I don't think so.
He's 32 years old.
He's 32,
also.
so I think you could probably get something close to what he is now.
Part of me wonders if you can get a Sundqvist deal. I mean, he signed, 2x3, 1.5 AAV each, and now maybe you get a little bit more for Faksa because he's a consistent player. But, I mean, is 2x2.5 too expensive for people?
So, and people in the past couple of days have said, hey, could you get him for 2.5? Hey, maybe you could. Maybe I'm just out to lunch on this one. But, like, if I'm Faksa and I know what I meant to the team there, and the cap's going up to $100 gazillion, that, you're at least going to try to get your piece, right?
Yeah.
So it's, 3.5, so,
Yeah, which again, I know people will say, well, you don't pay a fourth liner that. Sure, but when you're searching for the next fourth liner to play like that, and he's making $750,000, he's making $1 million, and they're going back up and down from the AHL, sometimes it's worth it if you have a line. I mean, that line was used as a third line pretty much from the end of the regular season into the playoffs.
So you guys would pay him that 3?
Well, yeah, maybe you wouldn't pay him 3.5. I don't know, maybe 3 whatever, but he is 32. But I guess it all depends on how many years are you talking. Like if you're just going to give him a couple years, it's not going to be.
And is Sundqvist a free agent too, or did he sign? He's got one more year.
1.5.
And then Walker,
he's got another year. Yeah, I think they signed him to an extension last year. It was a 2-year extension.
Deal.
So yeah, he's got one more year.
Why? And also, this is a very random thought. Why is there not a WTF T-shirt?
I should ask you the same question, Donnie.
We got to get on this.
Mr. T-shirt over here.
Yeah, no kidding. Why didn't I think of this quicker? We could sell those things like friggin' hotcakes.
Absolutely. I don't know. Do you big hotcake guy?
Walker would design that.
Oh yeah.
Can I tell you guys something? And
is it on the hotcake conversation?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I hate to sort of admit this.
Answer it.
But over the course of the last couple of years, I've become a little bit of a chef. Not big time, but I'm learning to cook. I'm not poisoning my kids anymore. For the very first time on Sunday morning, I made pancakes. I've never made them before. I made them for the first time. And let me tell you something. Those sons of bitches were delicious. I'm going to start making pancakes every other goddamn
Bring
day.
them in.
They were so friggin' good. And I know how easy they are, and all of you guys are like, duh. But it's just something that I had never done. Well, I got up early enough on Sunday morning. I have teenagers in my house now, so it was like quiet, which was amazing. So I waited a little bit, and then I started. I put bacon in the oven. I started working on these flapjacks, and then
look at this guy.
One wakes up, 2 wakes up, 3 wakes up. They all eat, say how good it is, and then go back to their rooms.
It's like that Mickey Mouse cartoon. The aroma of the pancake went into their room, and they grabbed them by the nostrils,
and they float out.
And then they ate it, and then they just float right back into their room.
Can you call yourself a chef when you made pancakes?
Absolutely, you can. I call myself a chef when I make an Eggo waffle.
Can I make this even more bizarre? Okay, so you guys are familiar at all with the animated show King of the Hill?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. One of my very favorite shows of all time. Mm-hmm. I have seen it start to front, back to finish. Well, they're bringing it back. I don't know if you know this or not. They're rebooting it, and it's going to be coming in the next month and a half. And a picture leaked from the storyline because we don't really know what's going on. It's fast forwarding in Ireland 20 years. Hank and Peggy are older. Bobby's grown up.
Bobby
has a job and a career.
Oh.
And it was leaked that he is a chef.
Oh, so this is why Donnie woke up that morning and said, I'm making pancakes.
I think it might have had something to do with it, man. I don't know why the hell this thing got so off the rails.
The writers of King of the Hill were the ones that created The Office, by the way.
It's really kind of amazing when you go through what those people have touched, because I believe they also helped on Parks and Recreation, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And so, the whole genesis of all of those shows, like seeming comes from like sort of the same group of people, and it's friggin' amazing to me. Amazing.
This is what you come to the podcast for. You start with the hatred of Pete DeBoer's Hucker face. You get plenty of blues content. And then you wrap up with
And
King
I found
of the
out
Hill.
I'm a chef because I didn't know I was a chef, but since I can make pancakes.
JR's going home to make pancakes for everybody.
I understand that you're making fun of me, JR, but that's okay. I'm still proud of myself and my pancake making.
I want to taste them.
If teenagers enjoy it, you're a chef.
More than anything else, I am just happy that I'm at a point in my life that when I am making dinner, my kids don't go,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, yes.
they're like, there is a possibility that this is going to be good. There's a possibility it might not be great, but it's not going to be terrible. So I'm just going.
This could be good.
Hey, before we wrap up, did we miss anything along as far as the hockey talk? I want to make sure that we touched all of our bases as far as the press conferences and things go, and I think that we did.
I think we got it all, unless I'm missing something, JR.
Oh, we got everything. We always do in the Last Minute Blues podcast.
There's a big push for you all.
Look at the way to wrap that thing up. For Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic, Alex Ferrario from 101 ESPN, our homeboy Jeff Burton, who we miss a lot. My name is Donny Fandango. Thanks for listening to the Last Minute Blues podcast, and as always, let's go Blues!
The Last Minute Blues Podcast. Hear more at 1057thepoint.com.